Erev Shabbos, everybody. This week is Parshas Tahara, otherwise known as Tazria Metzora, two Parshas that we have this week, both of which, among other things, discuss the laws of leprosy, but included in that are also other laws of purity and impurity according to Jewish law, according to biblical law, halacha. A few issues I want to address this week. One issue, I remember some years ago watching a video on YouTube, and it was of a television show from England where they had different people of different religious groups coming and discussing and answering questions. It was like one of those talk shows, kind of like, I want to say like Sally, Jesse, Raphael, where you had the audience and like the host would go and walk in the audience and people would ask questions, and there might be different guests, and they're usually not really famous, any of the guests. They're just interesting people talking about different subjects, these type of shows. But it was a show like, Geraldo used to have a show like that. I don't know, I think Tyra Banks has a show like that now, something like that, I'm not sure. But one of those type of shows were from England. Don't remember, the name of the show. And they had Christians, Muslims, Jewish, and they were asking different questions. And the Jewish rabbi they had was Lubavitcher Chassid. And the question that they asked him was why in the book of Leviticus we have that after a woman gives birth to a boy, she's impure for 1 week, and when she gives birth to a girl, she's impure for 2 weeks. Is this negative against women? So typical Lubavitcher, he has to be very verbose. Not that I'm not verbose, I love to talk. Obviously, anybody watches my videos know I love to talk. But sometimes they fail to get to the point. And so, the first thing he has to say, and this is something I see quite often in Orthodox Judaism. I personally don't like it. This is not my style, except in very rare occasions. But everyone has to point out, that's not exactly a proper translation of the words. And we have that a lot in this week's Torah reading. Yes, we all know that biblical leprosy is not Hansen's disease, it's not modern day leprosy. The interesting thing that they used to say, though, is that the big proof of that is that modern day Hansen's disease, leprosy, what they call leprosy, the word leprous as an adjective doesn't necessarily mean that someone has this particular disease of Hansen's disease. The people they sent to the leper colony, this island in Hawaii or whatever, they sent all of them to, that type of thing. So they used to say, well, obviously biblical leprosy is not Hansen's disease because modern day leprosy is incurable and biblical leprosy was curable, and so therefore it can't be the same thing. Now that's of course no longer true. I think Hertz says that in the Chumash, Rabbi Hertz talking about England. That's patently untrue, because nowadays, I'm not saying that therefore biblical leprosy is modern day leprosy. It is not, but the issue of whether or not it's curable has nothing to do with it. I could be verbose because I'm not on a talk show right now. I'm on my own YouTube channel. I can say whatever I want. I can make a video that's 5 hours long. Nobody's going to watch it. That's why it's better for me to make shorter videos, but it is what it is. But I remember they used to say like that when we call today leprosy, not the biblical leprosy. I'm not arguing that it's not. The reason is biblical leprosy is curable, modern day leprosy is not. But The fact of the matter is, modern day leprosy is now 100% curable, and it's quite a wonderful thing that so many people who in the past have suffered from this disease can now be cured of it, although unfortunately there are still people who suffer from it who cannot afford the treatment. And I think it's a fine, wonderful thing to do if you can. There are organizations that go and help lepers be cured. It's not really that expensive to cure a leper. It's just that in these third world countries, a lot of these human beings don't have the means for even these very affordable cures. But the fact of the matter is, right now, yes, modern day leprosy is now curable, believe it or not. It's been curable for, I think, at least 8 years, maybe longer, maybe 12 years. I don't know, you could look that up. I wasn't planning on talking about this. I didn't even know what I was going to talk about when I turned the camera on. So, I'm sorry, I didn't really plan ahead. I usually don't. I could have gone on Wikipedia and did research, but the fact of the matter is, the real reason I'm making a video right now is because I was listening to something through the internet online, and now I don't have reception. I'm finally back in New York. I haven't been here all week. So anyway, back to what I wanted to talk about. So this guy on this talk show, this rabbi, the long white beard, an older gentleman with a British accent, seemed like a smart dude, from how he presents himself. But when you go on TV, I mean, it's hard to remember these things even if you know it ahead of time. I understand people get nervous. And I've quite often regretted things I've said to media sources. But let's put that aside for now. Fact of the matter is, yes, Tumah and Tahara are not purity and impurity. They definitely are not. We talk about, the words purity and impurity can be used to mean many different things in English. And this is one of those that I definitely disagree with arguing about. Oh, we shouldn't say Tumah is impurity and Tahara is purity because they're not exact. Those words don't fully grasp the meaning of purity of Tumah and Tahara, because Tumah and Tahara mean so many different things. And the fact of the matter is, Tumah and Tahara actually mean different things in different contexts. Just because the word can refer to what we might technically call in English Levitical purity and Levitical impurity, that's what we're talking about here in our context in Leviticus, thus Levitical. Although these terms appear elsewhere in Scripture to mean what we call Levitical purity or Levitical impurity. All of that being said, you'll have to excuse me, it's Hayir, so even though they made it a movable feast, I'm not making a movable fast. I was Meiser Nefesh quite a bit today, a day that I usually would not, in the context of what's going on. Probably not a good idea for me to be fasting today. But that being said, I wanted to fast until Chatzos. It's just about Chatzos right now. I don't know exactly what time Chatzos is here, so I'm just going to continue the video. I know I'm not supposed to brag about fasting, but that being said, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be upset to hear that that's how I treat Hayir, and so it's going to bring me more insult than honor, I believe. So I don't feel as uncomfortable as I would maybe certain other days, to be honest and open about this. But this being said, sometimes Tumah and Tahara, whether in the scriptural sense, whether in Scripture or in other Jewish religious texts, mean something totally different. And Tahor, Tameh and Tahor can mean totally different things, not only in the strict legal Levitical sense, but in poetic or colloquial senses. And, essentially, I know some people, they like to take out their Strong's Concordance of the Bible and, make word comparisons and word studies based on these things, which is nice, and sometimes it is valid, but sometimes it's not. And the fact of the matter is, my feeling is, tumah, purity and impurity are perfectly good, although not totally perfect, but relatively good translations, purity and impurity of tahara and tumah. And we shouldn't, and the same thing, even leprosy, to call tzaras leprosy. And is tzaras always the same thing? Obviously, we read in Leviticus there are many different types of tzaras, but you don't have to necessarily call it tzaras. You can. I don't have a problem calling it leprosy, or at least if you want to. Again, it's not quite the same as Levitical, but if you want to say biblical leprosy, which I've heard people use that on the radio the old days when I used to listen to like WVOS late at night on the Motzei Shabbos in the summer, when they have like, I think they still have Country Yossi, but they used to have like Rabbi Yehuda Levin, but there was other Rabbanim who would go and speak on the radio. I don't remember exactly what they were talking about, but they were always really interesting stuff. I should go do that, personally. I should. Why don't I? What's wrong with me? Why am I so lazy that I can't get up out of the chair, go over and talk to Mike Sikel, and and get on WVOS? Maybe Shelly will get me on there. I should go talk to him about that. Let's put that aside for now. Back to what we were talking about. I have a call-in show. Talk about a lot of stuff. Back to what I'm talking about. All right. Tumah and Tahara. This is what I really want to talk about. So this rabbi and you see, I'm criticizing this rabbi for doing exactly what I did, what I'm doing right now. But again, the difference is this is my YouTube channel, and I'm only 12 minutes in. This is pretty short for a YouTube video that I'm making. So I'm doing pretty well. And because yesterday my video went on for, I don't know, almost 2 hours. I don't know, nobody's going to watch that. And I got into some really interesting stuff. But too bad. I know not too many people are going to watch that all the way through, and it's going to mess up my algorithms, put me into what Glenn Beck called today, quoting someone else, the algorithmic ghetto. I like that. I want to make that a hashtag. Algorithmic ghetto. All right. Listen to Glenn Beck's show today. That's 3 hours long. I didn't even listen to the whole thing. Let's get back to what we're talking about. So this rabbi on this British talk show, he was like, oh, well, it's not fair to translate Tumah and Tahara as purity and impurity, because Tumah actually means something else. It's hard to kind of define it. You can find this video on YouTube. I don't remember. All right, so why does the girl get Tumah for 2? Why does the mother have 2 weeks of Tumah after having a girl, only 1 week after having a boy? We want to use a different word. We want to get into semantics that much and waste my time on the TV show. I'm giving you precious time to give out your message on my TV show, and you're going to waste it by talking about, well, that's not exactly the right translation. Find a concise answer. I just went through some training for a new job, thank God. Even though I love my old job and I'm doing my best to keep it, kind of pushing the envelope a little bit, trying to balance these 2 jobs, but I think my dedication to the ministry I'll be involved with, both of them, will help me out to hang on to this hopefully. We'll see what happens, whatever God has in store. But let's move on. We were told in this training that I was taking for a state job, so a general basic training for anyone who works in a whole wide range of facilities. But let's put that aside for now. Sorry about that. I'm sorry I don't edit my videos. I know the real good YouTubers do that. I'm not such a good YouTuber. Let's get back to what we're talking about. Tumah and Tahara. Purity and impurity. He didn't have time to give the answer because he was taking too much time to explain it. And he kind of made himself look like a fool. Which I'm doing right now, so that's not for me to criticize a man much older and wiser than myself. Obviously, he has a long white beard. This guy must be some big rabbi, right? I don't know who he is, but that doesn't mean anything. Let's move aside. I don't mean to be rude saying that. I'm sorry. Let's go on. This would have been my answer. I wouldn't have gone into whole semantics. I'm just want to bring up, what would I have said? Not that that's necessarily the right answer. The more official answer that we were always taught in yeshiva is that Tumah and Tahara are always related to life and death. And since a woman has like the double aspect of life-giving, that's why there's the double level of Tumah. That's the real answer. I would have given a fake answer, which would have been a pretty good answer still. Not exactly a fake answer, it's a Mishnah. Not talking about this subject though, but we could still kind of say like this. This would have though been politically correct. I think this would have gotten Judaism some brownie points, and probably a whole bunch of rabbis in Or Sameach would have grabbed onto this one to take out of their pocket when they're looking for an answer. When this college kid who's on JLE for the week or whatever they call it, and he's like, "Oh, I saw this in Leviticus. Come on, that's sexist. Why is there twice as much impurity for a girl than for a boy?" And blah blah blah. What's that all about? Come on, Rabbi. The Bible is so sexist. You guys make me sick with your religion, your sexist, racist, right-wing religion. Right? That's what the college kid is going to say. Although probably, if he's already made it to JLE, he's probably been brainwashed somewhat by birthright. That's how he got there, and he's like, this is what I've been missing in all my life, which is true. It is what he's been missing all his life, but he's still kind of starry-eyed, flipping out, not yet really settled spiritually, which nobody is. We're all growing in life. That's what life is all about. But this would have been my answer for the public consumption. That's not really true, but sounds pretty good. This is how I would say it. There's a Mishnah like this. I wouldn't get into the whole Mishnah. I would have just quoted one small part of it. But let's get into the Mishnah. A great Mishnah in Yadayim. A few Mishnayos. And Yadayim is a very interesting tractate. I would say it's my favorite Masechta in Seder Taharos. Seder Taharos, mostly Mishnayos except for Nida. Very difficult. Yadayim, pretty easy. Talks about monkeys. Everybody loves monkeys. There's a monkey in there. Talks about, can you have a monkey wash your hands? Some say yes, some say no. I think the halacha in the end, if I remember right or wrong, is yes. Not quite as cool as, where is that? Kalayim? where we actually have Bigfoot, we have Adnei Asada. That's a little cooler, and there is some discussion that there's another Mishnah somewhere that when it talks about Holchei Shtayim, bipeds, that there are maybe more than one species of biped in the world. Might be other species of humans. Just saying, it's in the Mishnah. We'll put that aside. I'm not even talking about the monkeys here, because it also has the biblical canon, something I love to talk about. Not that either. The Sadducees and the Pharisees, another subject you always hear me talk about. So over there, the Sadducees and the Pharisees are fighting. They are arguing back and forth, and the Sadducees say, "Hey, Pharisees!" Now, Rabbi Bar Tzadok says that the rabbis never self-identified as the Pharisees, as Prushim. It seems that that's more like an insult, like that the Sadducees kind of put on the Pharisees. You know what we're saying? Like, oh, you guys, you're just total Pharisees. You're like, just, you practice abstinence. You're so backwards. You're just crazy. All right. That's how that was their attitude. All right, we'll put that aside. I don't understand, you Pharisees. You say that the books of the Bible make your hands unclean, and the writings of Homer do not. What's that all about? Come on. All right. So the Pharisees, the ones that the Sadducees were calling Pharisees, at least the rabbis, or maybe they were Pharisees, whatever it was, because the rabbis also kind of picked on the Pharisees. They were like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of different types of Pharisees, and a whole bunch of them are just phonies. That's not us either. I'm just saying that that's in the Talmud. Not, this whole thing that, someone has a blog, your Pharisee friend, and they think they're being cute, and they're just being dumb. I'm not saying the blog is dumb, just the title. Anyway, the Pharisees answer back, Sadducees, that's your biggest complaint? Did the books of the Bible make the hands impure, and the books of Homer do not? Well, how come the bones of a donkey don't make you impure, but the bones of Yochanan the high priest do make you impure? That sounds a lot more. It's like, and then the Sadducees are like, oh yeah, you got a point there. And like, here's the answer. Lefi chibasam utumasam. That sounds pretty cool. What does that mean? It means, in accordance with how beloved something is, thus is their impurity. Meaning, we don't want you to go and take the bones of your parents and make spoons out of them. You want to take donkey bones and make spoons? Go ahead. You want to make spoons out of your parents' bones? No. Sorry. And so, in accordance with their beloved state, thus is their impurity. Meaning, there's more impurity if there's more love there. And so, therefore, we can use that for our Mishnah and say, yeah. Why is there more Tumah? Because girls are better than boys. That gets you out of thinking that you're sexist against women, and then you just realize that the Torah is actually sexist against men. Doesn't trust the men. Say, you got to do all this religious stuff to keep on good behavior. The girls, they're fine. They don't need all this stuff. But you boys, we don't trust you. You gotta be busy all day learning, davening, stuff like that, putting on tefillin, because we don't trust you. Not exactly true, but it's not exactly false either. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a great Shabbos, and we'll talk to you all later. Take care.